Welcome to the channel. Today we explore a fascinating and mysterious story about Hollywood legend Gene Hackman. Despite his legendary roles and unmatched career, Gene Hackman's legacy extends beyond wealth and fame. Beneath the fortune lies a fractured family, betrayed trust, and secrets buried for years. In today's video, we'll uncover the treasure Gene Hackman left behind and the heartbreak it caused his family. Stay tuned as we reveal untold secrets about his life and legacy. Gene Hackman didn't depart in peace. Instead, he left behind a fortune powerful enough to fracture a family, over $80 million in cash, real estate, stocks, and secret investments no one dared to mention. But beneath those staggering figures lies a nightmare tearing the family apart. Every dollar Hackman left behind didn't just buy mansions and priceless art. It carried hidden secrets, frantic late-night calls, and unsent desperate letters. That fortune became a symbol of fear, betrayal, and broken dreams. Gene Hackman didn't leave a legacy. He left a curse. Hackman's family, according to unnamed sources, wasn't as picture-perfect as it seemed. He had 3 children from his first marriage to Faye Maltese, a union that lasted 30 years before ending in a painful divorce. His daughter, Elizabeth Hackman, once spoke openly about her father's emotional absence. Fame consumed all the time he should have spent with the family. He was always working, always somewhere else. Though he provided financial support without hesitation, his relationship with his children remained strained. Family dinners, teaching them to ride bikes or reading bedtime stories were never part of their reality, just distant fantasies. Over the years, the growing neglect created a rift that could never truly be repaired. Even after Hackman remarried Betsy Arakawa, a pianist 30 years his junior, the tension with his children never eased. Close sources revealed that his decision to live in seclusion wasn't just about seeking peace, it was a way to distance himself from the lingering conflicts within his family. Family gatherings became rare, phone calls grew shorter, and even Christmas lost its meaning as a time for reunion. Hackman never said it outright, but those close to him knew he feared the disappointment in his children's eyes. He attempted to make amends with money, property, and extravagant gifts sent from the West Coast to their cities. Yet, like the flawed characters he once portrayed, he learned that wealth couldn't buy what mattered most: connection and forgiveness. The gap between them widened even further when Hackman retired from Hollywood in 2004, following his final role in Welcome to Mooseport. There were no heartfelt goodbyes with colleagues, no farewell party from the studios that once hailed him as their golden goose. Instead, Hackman faded away like a quiet breeze, leaving behind only the echoes of a solitary and unyielding legacy. Hackman's final years in Santa Fe felt like a void, cut off from the world. He spent most of his days in a modest wooden house, reading, writing, and sketching landscapes. Those who happened to cross paths with him at the local grocery store or gas station described him as a thin, quiet man with deep, piercing eyes and an observant gaze. It was said that he found solace in sitting alone on his porch, watching the sun set behind the mountains as he sketched the horizon. In those fleeting moments, he may have finally felt truly free. No blinding camera flashes, no hollow praise, no tangled relationships. Just him, the wind, and the weight of unspoken thoughts. Even more unsettling were the rumors surrounding a secret personal fund Hackman established in the mid-90s. No one knew exactly how it operated, where the money came from, or its true purpose. Among the uncovered documents, a handwritten letter from Hackman to himself surfaced, resembling a cryptic financial journal. The letter read, "I built this not to leave behind wealth, but to leave behind control." This chilling statement sent shockwaves through his family, revealing an undeniable truth. Gene Hackman never intended for his fortune to slip into anyone else's hands, not even his own children's. As whispers of Hackman's declining health spread, Hollywood's media scrambled to uncover the final pieces of his story. Some claimed he had secretly drafted a will years ago, carefully distributing his assets into hidden accounts to avoid family disputes. Others speculated he had established an anonymous charity, discreetly funneling his fortune as a silent act of atonement for the years he spent distant from his children. The less Hackman appeared, the more he became the center of conspiracy theories and speculation. Yet in his quiet Santa Fe home, he spent his final days in solitude, untouched by the noise of the world he had left behind. When his eyes finally closed, he left behind more than just a legendary career. He left behind mysteries that would linger long after his name faded into history. Gene Hackman wrote his own ending, slipping away from the world in a way no one could have foreseen. The news of his passing arrived on a gray morning, before the first light touched the red peaks of New Mexico. It was quiet, without spectacle, much like the reclusive life he had chosen for the past 2 decades. But when that brief obituary surfaced in a small local newspaper, it sent shockwaves through Hollywood and his own family. Suddenly, long-buried secrets began to unravel, and doors that had remained tightly shut for years creaked open, revealing truths no one was prepared to face. Hackman's family had never fully comprehended the true extent of his wealth. As a Hollywood legend and 2-time Oscar winner who had graced the most prestigious red carpets, there was no doubt he had amassed a fortune. But just how vast it was, where it was hidden, and how it had been safeguarded remained mysteries, even to those closest to him. His secrecy and reclusive nature weren't just personality traits, they were a carefully crafted art form, one he had perfected until his final breath. At first, his family believed settling his affairs would be simple. A handwritten will, notarized in 2001, was discovered, listing clear assets: a modest Santa Fe home, a bank account in California, and a vintage Hudson Hornet he had cherished since his youth. The estimated total value was under $5 million, a surprisingly small sum for a man of his stature and success. But as they dug deeper, sifting through old documents and stumbling upon mysterious, seemingly anonymous bank accounts, a far more complex and hidden story began to emerge. It turned out that Gene Hackman's influence extended far beyond the silver screen. Since the 1990s, at the peak of his career, he had been quietly building an intricate financial web, one that stretched across real estate holdings, stock portfolios, anonymous investment funds, and discreet money transfers overseas. Hackman wasn't just a brilliant actor. He was a mastermind at navigating the financial world, expertly concealing his wealth in ways few could ever trace. The first person to stumble upon this hidden truth was the family's longtime lawyer, an aging man who had worked with Hackman since the 1970s. Buried among dusty papers in a wooden chest stored in Santa Fe, he uncovered handwritten letters and internal memos detailing a labyrinth of secret transactions. Hackman had quietly invested in emerging tech startups, acquired land in Nevada's expanding suburbs, and poured money into solar energy funds in New Mexico. Yet none of it was in his name. Every asset was concealed behind layers of shell companies, deliberately structured to leave no direct trace back to him. But as they followed the money trail, one account surfaced again and again. The original account Hackman had set up in 1993, right after securing his second Oscar. After assembling all the clues, the estimated total value of the assets surpassed $80 million, a figure that left even his closest friends in disbelief. However, what truly astonished his family wasn't the sheer amount, but the extraordinary secrecy with which Hackman had concealed it for so many years. No one could determine exactly how he had managed it, who might have been involved, or why he had chosen to be so secretive. In several hidden transactions, Hackman had operated under aliases, utilizing trust accounts established in Switzerland, the Cayman Islands, and Singapore. The biggest mystery remains. Why did Gene Hackman conceal his assets from his own family? Was it a matter of distrust, or were there deeper secrets still waiting to be uncovered? A theory began circulating, not through the press, but from within Hackman's own family. His children, who had grown up feeling the emotional distance of their famous father, suddenly realized they had never truly known him. Hackman wasn't just distant in relationships. He was equally guarded with his finances, as if fearing that even the slightest disclosure of his wealth would spark endless conflict. So, he built barriers, impenetrable financial layers, ensuring that even his own children would never gain access. The revelation of this secret fund immediately set off a wave of covert investigations. Lawyers, financial analysts, and even private detectives were brought in to uncover its whereabouts. Yet every lead ended in a dead end. Gene Hackman had anticipated this moment long ago. The ghost accounts, the intricate web of shell companies, the untraceable cash transactions, each time the family inched closer to the truth, Hackman appeared to be a decade ahead. When the family lawyer formally disclosed Hackman's estate, what was listed barely scratched the surface: the Santa Fe house, the vintage car, and a handful of bank accounts. The true fortune, the hidden wealth, remained buried beneath layers of financial secrecy known only to Hackman himself. And now, with his passing, that mystery became an unsolvable enigma for those closest to him. Amid those frantic searches, the Hackman family was forced to confront a painful truth. There were moments when they had never truly been a part of Gene Hackman's life. He existed as a solitary legend, cherishing wealth in his own way, concealing it as if it were an extension of himself, and carrying those secrets to the grave. That immense fortune, rather than serving as a family legacy, now stands as the remnants of a man who willingly let go of everything, even his own family, to safeguard one thing above all else: absolute control. The old wooden door of the Santa Fe house groaned as it swung open. A dim yellow light seeped through the threshold, casting long shadows over the dust-laden room, where the scent of decaying wood and aged paper mingled with the ghostly remnants of a home left untouched for years. The Hackman family stood motionless, taking in the scene, a world frozen in time, its remnants scattered like broken memories across the gray wooden floor. They hadn't wept upon hearing of Hackman's death. His passing wasn't just the loss of a father, husband, or grandfather. It felt more like the aftershock of a silent earthquake, years in the making, now finally rupturing and sweeping away everything: familial bonds, trust, and long-buried secrets. That night, gathered around the worn wooden table, Gene Hackman's children carefully unlatched each wooden box and unfolded the faded envelopes they had discovered in the attic's dusty corner. No one was prepared for what lay inside. Instead of a will or financial instructions, they found handwritten letters, pages filled with Hackman's familiar, shaky handwriting, words never meant to be read. The first letter, penned in the winter of 1995, just after Hackman wrapped filming Crimson Tide, was addressed to Christopher, his eldest son, a son he hadn't spoken to directly in 15 years. It was short, only a few lines. "I know I was never the father you wanted, but you must understand. I never truly belonged to anyone, not even my own family." The words sliced through Christopher like a cold blade. He wasn't shocked by them. He had always known deep down. But seeing them inked on yellowed paper instead of hearing them from his father's lips left him breathless, hollowed out by the weight of what had been left unsaid. The letters that followed were filled with memories and regrets. One was addressed to Elizabeth, his youngest daughter, recalling the nights he spent alone in the living room, watching old family videotapes. Hackman wrote, "I always thought I was protecting you by keeping my distance, wanting you to live without the shadow of my fame hanging over you. But now I wonder if I was just protecting myself." The letter was written on Elizabeth's 30th birthday. Yet it had never left the drawer. Each letter felt like a fragment of Hackman's soul, pieces of a man who had always remained just out of reach. In those pages, the family found glimpses of a father they had never truly known, one who had spent a lifetime hiding not just his fortune, but also his deepest fears and unspoken regrets. He wasn't merely a renowned actor or a Hollywood icon. He was also a private man, caught between his instinct to shield his family and his apprehension of losing his identity in fatherhood. But it wasn't just the letters. The deeper the Hackman family searched through the aged drawers, the more fragments of this intricate mystery they uncovered. Cryptic financial arrangements, inexplicable money transfers, and, most unsettling of all, a list of undisclosed beneficiaries. Gene Hackman seemed to have established a separate inheritance list, one that excluded every member of his family. Instead, millions of dollars had been allocated to unexpected recipients. A childhood friend in California, a former assistant from the 1980s, and even a waiter at Hackman's favorite restaurant in Santa Fe. Why had Hackman selected them? And why had he left out his own family? No one had an answer, but the disbelief and fury surged through the room like a tidal wave, pulling each family member into an emotional tempest with no refuge. That night, the first argument erupted. Betsy Arakawa, Hackman's second wife, sat silently in the corner of the room. Despite their years together, she had never fully grasped the complexities of the man she called her husband. The unexplained absences, the hurried phone calls, the sudden getaways, now they all fit together, revealing the full picture. Hackman hadn't just kept his distance from his children, he had also created barriers between himself and the woman who shared his life. But the emotional shockwave didn't end there. When the family lawyer unveiled the list of secret accounts Hackman had left behind, the entire room fell into stunned silence. A significant portion of his estate, over $20 million, had been transferred to an unknown charity just months before his death. The organization had no official name, no public records, only a cold and cryptic acronym: the GH Legacy Fund. No one knew how this organization functioned, where the money would end up, or what Hackman's real intentions had been. But one thing was undeniable. Gene Hackman had placed his trust in strangers over his own family. In the dimly lit house, tears dripped onto the wooden table, seeping into the fragile old letters. The Hackman family hadn't just lost a father or a husband, they had lost their last opportunity to understand, to mend what was broken, to hear the long overdue words of regret. All that remains are worn letters, fading memories, and a question that will never be answered. Who was Gene Hackman truly? A distant father or a solitary soul? Some families are destined to bask in the glow of fame, while others are left to bear the weight of a legend, a shadow so vast and heavy that, despite millions in wealth, they are never freed from the feeling of being bound. The Hackman family exemplifies that very curse. Gene Hackman's name was not only a symbol of Hollywood prestige, but also an unspoken burden for those who shared his bloodline. His two children, Christopher and Elizabeth. Christopher and Elizabeth, raised under the weight of their father's fame, could never outrun the label of being Gene Hackman's children. Even as they built their own lives, the name Hackman clung to them like an inescapable shadow. Their father's success wasn't a beacon of inspiration, but an invisible curse, one of endless comparison. Every milestone they reached was measured against his Oscars and iconic roles, always falling short, always deemed not enough and just out of reach. And when the hidden doors to Hackman's fortune were unlocked after his death, alongside Betsy Arakawa, that burden didn't lift. It became golden chains, glistening yet tighter than ever. As the lawyers began reading the will, stretching across hundreds of pages, every word seemed to hover in the heavy silence of the Santa Fe room. The estate, valued at over $80 million, was meticulously detailed. Real estate holdings, stocks spread across California and New Mexico, art collections, vintage cars, and secret investments the family had never known existed. Yet, alongside these assets, Hackman imposed a series of rigid and unsettling inheritance conditions. No family member was permitted to use the name Gene Hackman for memoirs, documentaries, or the sale of personal stories. Publicly challenging the estate in the press was strictly forbidden. But the most enigmatic revelation was the existence of a hidden account, the Untouched Fund, established in the 1990s and concealed for over 3 decades. Not even his wife Betsy had known of its existence. The only unyielding rule: any attempt to tamper with this fund would result in the immediate forfeiture of their entire inheritance. It was a sealed vault, a sacred boundary Hackman had carved out for himself, ensuring his control remained unshaken even in death. Ironically, throughout their lives, Hackman and Betsy Arakawa projected the image of a serene and harmonious marriage. The couple resided in a self-designed wooden house on a 12-acre estate nestled in the Santa Fe Mountains, far removed from Hollywood's chaos. Their longtime friends, Daniel and Barbara Lenehan, still recall the quiet afternoons, Hackman lost in his painting, Betsy gently brewing tea, both exchanging contented smiles as they embraced the vast stillness of nature, the life they had always envisioned. But beneath that tranquil surface, Hackman's need for control never wavered. Betsy herself once confided to a close friend, "Gene is the perfect husband, as long as I don't interfere with what he calls his personal legacy." That legacy wasn't just his film career, it was his authority over his own story. No one, not even his wife or children, was ever permitted to rewrite the history of Gene Hackman. Gene Hackman was once a timeless Hollywood icon in a world where even the brightest stars eventually fade. But even legends disappear into the night. In his later years, Hackman took a path far from the public's glamorous perception of him. No grand farewell, no tearful goodbyes, no revealing memoirs. Instead, he quietly walked away from Hollywood, vanishing without a trace. If Gene Hackman's story moved you, don't forget to hit the like button and share this video with your friends. Let us know in the comments what you think about the legacy he left behind and its impact on his family. And be sure to subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss more compelling stories and videos. New Mexico was no mystery to Gene Hackman. Since the 1980s, he had called Santa Fe home, a secluded retreat far from Hollywood's glitz and glare. The winding red dirt roads, dense pine forests, and eerie dusk winds painted the perfect backdrop for a star to quietly fade into his final chapter. Locals often murmured about the tall, weathered man with deep-lined features, seen cycling through the hills each day. "He looked like someone I've seen before," a grocery store clerk once remarked, yet no one could quite place him. Gene Hackman had become a quiet shadow in town, blending in among the elderly who had retreated to a life of peace. Hollywood made its attempts, tempting offers from ambitious young directors, scripts crafted just for him, but nothing could break through the fortress of silence he had built around himself. "I've said everything I needed to say," he admitted in a rare interview. At 90, Hackman no longer cared for fame or fortune. What he sought was peace, a luxury he had never truly known amid the relentless chaos of Hollywood. But that silence wasn't entirely by choice. Rumors began to spread, and the darker truths of Hackman's life surfaced in hushed conversations among those closest to him. His health was declining faster than anyone had anticipated. Silent heart attacks, unnoticed falls as he cycled through town. In his final years, Gene Hackman was but a fading shadow of the legend he had once been. When the will was revealed, Christopher almost laughed. Hackman had won. Even in death, he still controlled everything, even their thoughts. Elizabeth, the youngest daughter, the one who always hid behind unfinished paintings, had clung to the fragile hope that her father would leave her some form of freedom. But the cold, calculated will shattered that last illusion. Not a single line contained warmth, emotion, or a final message. Only conditions, restrictions, and the looming threat of disinheritance. The immense fortune didn't feel like a gift. It was a weight, shackling them, dragging them into an endless sea of expectations. And somewhere in the depths of it all, Hackman remained, watching, distant, unyielding, as his children struggled beneath the weight of his legacy. Amid the heated arguments, whispers about the untouched fund began circulating through Hollywood's inheritance circles. Some speculated that Hackman had quietly funneled money into off-the-record investments, while others believed he had established an anonymous charity under a different name. No one knew for certain. Not even Hackman's own lawyer, who confessed, "I don't know what he hid in there either." Betsy had asked her husband about it multiple times, but each time, Hackman's response remained the same. There are things you shouldn't know, and our children shouldn't know either. Now, with both of them gone, those hidden truths had turned into an obsession, haunting every member of the family. No one could decide whether to protect Hackman's carefully crafted legacy or unravel the secrets he had so deliberately left behind. Amid the tears and the heated arguments ripping through the Santa Fe living room, a harsh truth surfaced. Hackman's greatest legacy wasn't his wealth or fame. It was a family shattered beneath the overwhelming shadow of a legend no one had dared to challenge. If his iconic roles on screen were merely the visible tip of the iceberg called Gene Hackman, then the drafts, notes, and secret documents unearthed after his death were the hidden, cold and murky depths submerged beneath the sea of memory. The upstairs office of Hackman's house, a room forbidden to everyone for years, even Betsy, was finally unlocked. Behind the heavy oak door lay a world no one had ever seen. Unfinished film scripts layered in dust, personal journals filled with handwriting that wavered between steady and unsteady strokes, and cryptic financial notes hinting at shadowy ties to the lingering ghosts of old Hollywood's mafia. These unproduced scripts weren't just discarded projects. They were, in essence, the untold film of Hackman's own life. Though celebrated as a legendary actor, few knew that Hackman had always dreamed of being a director. Not for commercial films, but for a deeply personal story, his own. Among the discovered materials were at least 3 unfinished scripts, each revealing fragments of a life he had never fully shared. But it was the final script that left his family in stunned silence. His last confession opened with the words, "If there is an afterlife, I want to be born without anyone knowing who I am." This script, according to Hackman's own notes, was a thinly veiled autobiography, an unfiltered account of his journey from a struggling Marine to an Oscar-winning icon. But it didn't shy away from the darker truths. The fractures in his first marriage, the unspoken pain of his children, and the secret deals that ensured the Hackman name remained untouchable. Scrawled in the margins were haunting conversations with himself. Fame sometimes means selling your soul, and beneath it, a chilling question. How many people did I betray to keep the name Gene Hackman? This script was never sent to a studio, never shared with the world. Instead, it remained buried alongside dozens of unfinished dreams, dreams Hackman never found the courage to bring to life. Alongside the scripts, the family unearthed 4 personal journals spanning from 1995 to 2022. The early pages painted a portrait of joy, sweet memories of Betsy Arakawa, spontaneous escapes to Japan, France, and Italy. Hackman wrote that only when he left the United States did he feel truly normal, not Gene Hackman, just a man. But as the years passed, the handwriting grew uneven, the words more erratic, and many pages were smudged with ink. Whether from spilled tears or the unsteady grip of trembling fingers during his loneliest nights, No one could say. Hackman loved his children in his own way, but that love was as distant and unyielding as the glare of stage lights. He left them everything, except a warm embrace, a heartfelt compliment, or a moment where he stood beside them as just a father, not a legend. And when Hackman closed his eyes for the last time, his family realized that the legacy he left behind was heavier than a mountain of gold, for it carried not just wealth, but the weight of expectations, untouchable legacies, and secrets too daunting to unearth. To the world, Gene Hackman was an icon, but to his children he was a locked door, a father defined by filming schedules and contracts. Their memories of him weren't shaped by fishing trips or family dinners, but by magazine covers and fleeting glimpses of him on the red carpet, so close, yet impossibly distant. Some nights, Christopher Hackman, the eldest son, would sit awake in front of the screen, rewinding and replaying his father's films, searching for something real, a flicker of emotion that wasn't scripted, a moment that felt genuine. But the screen only reflected what Gene Hackman wanted the world to see, never what he truly felt. Hackman wasn't a bad father. He was simply a prisoner of the legend he built, trapped between the larger-than-life Hollywood icon and the ordinary man he never fully allowed himself to be. Just when everyone thought Hackman's legacy was confined to wealth and fame, one final secret surfaced. He had quietly established an anonymous charity with an initial fund of $10 million, directing all his future film royalties toward scholarships and school construction for underprivileged children across the United States. The foundation was named The Other Gene, a subtle yet profound nod to the man he once was. It was a tribute to the poor boy who had been expelled from school, waited tables to survive, and once dreamed of nothing more than owning a decent pair of shoes to attend class. Hackman left behind a letter for his personal lawyer, writing, "If I could live my life over, I would want to start from a place where no one knows I am Gene Hackman. I want to be a normal child, with shoes that aren't torn and meals without worrying about tomorrow." In this final act, he sought to redeem the pain of his childhood, not through words, but through action. And in the closing lines of his letter, he left a message for his children. "I hope you understand that I never forgot who I am, and I hope you will find yourselves without living under anyone else's shadow." The memories of Hackman live on, not just in framed photos on the wall, but in the weight of his legacy, in the blurred scenes of family movie nights, in the spaces he left behind. The brilliance of a bygone era had wrapped his life in a shimmering halo, but when the Hollywood lights dimmed, all that remained was the echo of the past, an old man writing letters to his children, knowing they would never be sent. Gene Hackman is gone, but the story of golden triumphs, silent tears, and memories that wealth could never buy remains an unfinished film, waiting for someone else to continue telling. Gene Hackman is gone, leaving behind a mountain of wealth, but his family is left to sift through the shattered remnants of trust, love, and lost chances for reconciliation. Now, nothing more than dust. The Oscars can be polished to shine once more, but the wounds in their hearts remain, untouched, unhealed, and beyond repair. If Gene Hackman's story intrigued and moved you, don't forget to like and share this video with your loved ones. We'd love to hear your thoughts. What do you think about the legacy Hackman left behind and the secrets still waiting to be uncovered? Drop a comment below. And if you haven't already, hit the subscribe button and turn on the notification bell so you never miss another fascinating story. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.